and welcome everybody to my session about the latest features of SAP BW for HANA 2.0 Support Package 4. My name is Heiko Schneider. I'm part of Enterprise Data Warehouse Product Management at SAP, and I will walk you through the session today. To start with, I have prepared a short agenda for you to show you really the main focus areas where we have added new enhancements, which are on the one hand side, all about modeling, data integration, data tiering, but also, and last but not least, data protection and privacy, a quite important topic. And then also I have prepared some information about integration with SAP Analytics Cloud. Let me show you one slide which we usually use to present the overall portfolio we offer in the area of data warehousing. And of course, first of all, we have our strategic on-premise solutions, which are SAP BW for HANA, but also our native SQL-based data warehouse solutions on the one hand side. Then, of course, we have the new product, namely SAP Data Warehouse Cloud, our public cloud offering for data warehousing. And what is also quite important to highlight here, that we also see scenarios, hybrid scenarios, where also existing customers, for example, BW for HANA customers, can also leverage Data Warehouse Cloud to enhance and augment the existing scenarios to have more benefits also coming from the cloud. And those scenarios we call hybrid scenarios. So it's really quite important to always have in mind that it's not about replacing one product by the other. For example, replace BW for HANA by Data Warehouse Cloud. This is not the case. The contrast is the more important thing to really enhance also existing investments made in BW for HANA, for example, and develop them further, for example, with SAP Data Warehouse Cloud. So all products have a strong roadmap behind. And moving forward, of course, we will see improvements in all areas. So like for today, the enhancements we made with SP4 for BW for HANA 2.0. So how do we see BW for HANA 2.0 today? And I think this has not changed so much, because we still see BW for HANA as our strategic on-prem enterprise data warehouse solution. Of course, we have highly optimized it for SAP HANA, but we also have simplified every aspect of the application with regards to data modeling, with regards to administration, for example. So we have really invested a lot here in this area. Another quite important thing is to capitalize on all source applications which might be connected to BW for HANA. This is quite key for an enterprise data warehouse, and we have also invested here quite a lot to integrate BW for HANA with all kinds of sources you might want to explore and extract the data from. Okay, so BW itself is quite long on the market. So we have a history of BW being on the market of more than 20 years. And also BW for HANA also is quite a mature product, started back in 2016. Where we took the first and latest version of BW 7.5 and optimized it consequently to run on HANA as a primary database. In parallel, we already introduced new technologies which were available at that time, for example, data tiering optimization, and made it available for BW for HANA 1.0. Then we had two support packages or enhancement packages for BW for HANA 1.0, where we consequently continued to enhance the capabilities which we launched for the specific releases. But we also integrated technologies interesting for BW for HANA, for example, the SAP Data Hub. What we also did, especially with support package 8, we invested a lot in the UI, and this was a continuous investment, of course. So from a development perspective and administration perspective, we really tried our best to simplify the UIs of both, to really make life easier for administrators, for developers, and so on and so forth. Then end of 2019, we launched BW for HANA 2.0, which was the initial shipment of BW for HANA 2.0. And already here we introduced quite a lot of new functionalities. So it's definitely interesting for you who haven't done it already to have a look at the features we launched there. However, now with support package 4, we have launched mid of the year. We added further capabilities, quite interesting capabilities, I guess, so that we today can really say that with SAP BW for HANA 2.0, we really have a modern enterprise data warehouse solution available, which helps a lot to implement your version of a model data warehousing environment. So after the introduction, I guess let's dive a little bit more into detail about the new functionalities. And the first area I want to touch is the area of modeling and how do we provide more flexibility here in data modeling. And here, coming to the next slide, you see just an overview what we have done in this area of data modeling. So basically, we added a lot of capabilities to the composite provider to make it more versatile, to make it more flexible. I do not want to go through each and every point here because I have more detailed slides later. Then we have also added a new possibility for hierarchy maintenance in the admin cockpit of BW for HANA. And as a third bullet point here, we really made development of process chains really easier and a lot of less effort by having a possibility to automatically generate process chains from the data flow, from the graphical data flow modeling. So this really reduces development effort quite a lot. But first, let's first have a look at the composite provider. I have 3 slides on it, so you can see that we have added a lot of capabilities here. And the first thing which must be mentioned, of course, is that we have added more join types. So we have added capabilities to use full outer join, referential joins, but also wide outer joins, which provide a lot of new or more flexibility in your modeling scenarios. Then we also removed the limitations which have been active in the past. So the succession and the sequence of the part providers had to be considered in the past, and this limitation is not valid anymore. So you are really flexible how you want to join all your part providers that might be included in such a composite provider. Then secondly, we also added new join operators. So you might know the equal operator to link the part providers in a join condition. And now we added additional operators, for example, the not equal operator, and also quite interesting, the greater than or less than operator. For example, if you have time dependent scenarios, if you want to model time dependencies, then the greater than less than operator can really quite interesting benefit and option for you to model such scenarios. Then moving to the next slide, and this is also about composite provider and providing more flexibility, especially when it comes to bringing in customer logic by using SQL commands. So here we added 2 further possibilities for you to bring in your own logic. Point 1 would be a filter node, which you can customize to use your own filter logic here. And then we also have the possibility to bring in calculated columns and populate those columns with your own logic implemented via SQL syntax. So it's also a quite interesting possibility for you to really nail down your scenarios and also your requirements and implement it with the composite provider here. So also here, again, we have added a new degree of flexibility for the composite provider. Then last but not least, so we are still in the area of composite provider, we added new node types here. For those of you who might be familiar with the view modeling on the HANA side, you might know the aggregation nodes and the projection nodes. And this was in the past one reason why you would have modeled certain parts of the scenarios natively on HANA. But now with the new feature pack, such nodes are available with the composite provider directly. And that's why you can really model more scenarios using the composite provider completely and to his full extent. Okay, so that's all about the composite provider. And now let's talk about two additional quite interesting capabilities here. I mentioned them at the beginning slide shortly. First of all, it's the hierarchy maintenance in the administration web cockpit of BW for HANA. So what you can do here basically is you can model complete hierarchies. You can model the structure of the hierarchies, of course, but you can also specify all general properties of this hierarchy. For example, behavior in reporting, something like this. So functionalities you are used to also from BW, you can also model here for hierarchies. Big benefit, of course, is that you are not tied to the SAP GUI anymore for this task. Then I personally like this capability a lot because as a developer or as a consultant, I spent a lot of time modeling process chains as well. However, now with the capability of the graphical data flow modeling, you also now have the possibility to let the system automatically generate a complete process chain from such a data flow. And if you know how much effort it can take to model complex process chains, you might see the benefit you get with this functionality. So you really just have to assign a technical name. That's basically all. You can push the button and then the system in less than a second generates the process chain for you. Of course, this chain can be edited. You can adopt it to your needs. That's of course possible, but this really saves a lot of development effort at the end of the day. Okay. Then one short mentioning about transformations. We also added here or improved here performance on the one hand side. For example, when it comes to transforming huge amounts of data, it might be necessary to materialize the SIDs for better processing instead of generating them every time on the fly. So this is done to improve the performance. Then when it comes to propagating data to additional data targets from a composite provider, also here the performance has been improved to a better parallelization. Basically, the whole technology to propagate the data has been re-engineered here. So this is definitely also worth to mention in this area. Before we come now to the next area, which is all about data integration in SAP BW 2.0. And here also, what I mentioned at the beginning, being able to connect to any kind of data sources is quite key for an enterprise data warehouse. Of course, even especially when it comes to our own data sources, our own applications, and especially here cloud applications. And here you can see that we are really leveraging our proven technology like operational data provisioning based upon CDS views to extract data from one part of our cloud applications like S4HANA Cloud, Marketing Cloud, but also SAP Sales Cloud and Service Cloud. On the other hand side, we have a lot more applications in the cloud, like Fieldglass, SuccessFactors, Concur in the future. And here we also we already have available, of course, connectors, which really help you to extract data from our cloud-based applications in a better and in a robust way. Then sometimes in certain scenarios, it is necessary to export, to propagate the data from BW to a target system, to an upstream system. And of course, in the past, we have used Open Hub Service for it. We are still using it. That's the good news. So you are still able to propagate data to target system and post it as files in the target system, or you can even propagate the data to tables, of course, like before. But when it comes to propagating data to SAP databases as a target, like SAP HANA, like SAP IQ or SAP ASE, you now have the possibility to use smart data access to propagate the data to those targets. And here you can benefit from a higher degree of parallelization and improve performance in this way. Another good news is that the license which would have been applied in the past for Open Hub Service is included in BW for HANA, so there are no questions and discussions around licensing Open Hub Service. The next topic is about data tiering optimization. A lot of customers are using it because it's really an integrated possibility for you to efficiently manage huge amounts of data and post the data, persist the data on cost-efficient technologies and storage locations, just according to your needs. And here, of course, we continuously also invested, and one feature which is probably important for our retail customers also is the possibility to update data when it's already posted to the cold stores, so nearline storage. So in the past, this was not possible to update the data in such cold stores because they were archived away, the data. And now we have the struggler management, maybe you know this expression, which allows you really to update data which has already been archived away and stored in locations, for example, like our nearline storage solution. Also important to know is that this capability is currently in a pilot phase. You can see a note at the bottom of the slide here, where you can get more information about applying for the pilot and so on and so forth, if you are interested in this capability. Okay, but this was not the complete story on data tiering optimization. We also introduced a new storage location, especially for systems, for one node systems. This is quite interesting because you now have the possibility to define a well-defined buffer area on the main node of your system, which you can also use as a kind of storage extension and to post data which is not frequently used there in a more cost-efficient way. So this is really quite interesting, especially for one node systems, because you don't have extension nodes where you can archive the data here. Then one requirement from customer side we often received is the fact that data tiering optimization required some administration effort moving the data from one location to the other. And now we have introduced more flexible rules on time characteristics, which allow you to automatically do the data logistics between your storage locations. The next area here, and this is also quite important for many customers from us, because back in 2018, especially the European government enforced the laws on data protection and privacy, and not even since then, but at least since then, this topic became, of course, also a higher importance for our customers here. because BW, of course, also from time to time stores sensitive information which might need to be deleted at a certain point in time. And here we have also shipped already with the initial shipment of BW for HANA 2.0 functionality we called Data Protection Workbench. And this Data Protection Workbench really helps you to transparently manage the deletion of sensitive information here. And what is the general problem? Because in the past, BW was able to delete sensitive information. We had the possibility with selective deletion to selectively delete sensitive information, of course, but this was a quite cumbersome process. And the transparency was not fulfilled anytime because the administrator had to take care by himself to really delete the data from all possible info providers that might have stored sensitive information. And this process we want to improve here. From an SAP source system perspective, SAP ILM, Information Lifecycle Management, manages deletion of sensitive information. And what was not available and what was the problem in the past was that whenever sensitive data was deleted from the source systems, BW was not notified about this. So there was no integration between ILM and BW for HANA. And this is basically what we improved here with the Data Protection Workbench. That means whenever sensitive data is deleted from an ILM managed SAP source system, then a notification is generated, and this notification can be extracted to BW for HANA. And from there, those notifications are stored in a just standard advanced data store object, which then is the basis for the data protection workbench. So you don't have to worry about this data flow and this data logistics. All of those objects which are needed to run the data protection workbench are shipped as part of the technical content. So you don't have to model them on your own, of course. So what is new with support package 4? With support package 4, we also support S4HANA Cloud Edition. That means not only the on-premise S4HANA system is covered and supported with the data protection workbench. You can also, of course, receive notifications from an S4HANA Cloud system. And this is also good news for our cloud customers here using S4HANA Cloud. Okay, last but not least, maybe some information about integration with SAP Analytics Cloud as our preferred front end, of course, and proposed front end for BW for HANA. And of course, here we are also doing from our side our best to integrate best with SAP Analytics Cloud. And one very interesting capabilities to consume data, of course, is to consume the data from geomaps, from graphical maps, which display the key figures in maps. And a feature SAP Analytics Cloud is offering here is so-called Choropleth. That means really to provide the capability to display aggregated key figure values in geographical maps. And for BW, we offered this already with BW 7.5, at least a possibility to leverage a standard template defined from SAP for such purposes. What is new here now is that you also have the possibility to define your own customer-specific layer. For example, if you want to use your color codes from your corporate identity guidelines, you can really customize now the Choropleth layer accordingly, according to your corporate identity. That's basically the main integration topic with SAP Analytics Cloud. Besides this, we also improved performance, or we removed limitations here. For example, the current member operation is now pushed down to HANA. This was in the past always an operation which still had to be processed on the application side, on the application layer, but now we delegated this performance intensive operation also down to HANA to improve reporting performance. Okay, to finalize this presentation, then maybe let's spend 1 or 2 minutes to have a look at the roadmap. I initially said that behind every data warehouse product we offer, there's a roadmap associated to it. And of course, this is also true for BW for HANA. And here you can basically see in the different columns what we already have shipped in 2019, then what we have shipped with support package 4, basically with this presentation, what I introduced with this presentation. And you can also see that we, of course, plan further enhancement packages in the future. And you can see it even here, that even for this year, we plan to ship a second feature pack for BW for HANA 2.0. And looking at the different areas of enhancements here, you can see basically the same aspects I mentioned, I used in this presentation here. So what it means, of course, is we continue to invest in our capabilities we already shipped to make them better, more flexible, improve performance. Like for data tiering optimization, for example, but also for the data protection workbench. Of course, we will also push further the integration with SAP Analytics Cloud, that's for sure. And we will add also new capabilities, of course, where we see possibilities to add and enhance BW for HANA. Quite important is also the integration to Data Warehouse Cloud, because at the beginning I mentioned the additional value of Data Warehouse Cloud also for our existing BW for HANA customers, really to enhance existing scenarios into the cloud if required. So, and here we, of course, want a very tight integration from the one hand side, of course, to be able to exchange the data back and forth between BW and Data Warehouse Cloud. But on the other hand side, also to have a better integration regarding metadata. This is basically what we mean with hybrid scenarios. And the first step here would be really to be able to export the query as a metadata object into Data Warehouse Cloud and automatically generate Data Warehouse Cloud specific artifacts to really reflect the query and to ensure that the query is also working in terms of Data Warehouse Cloud. So if you execute the query here, you of course also see the data from BW. So here we want to push the integration forward also metadata wise between BW for HANA and SAP Data Warehouse Cloud. Okay, so this was it from my side. What I also added here for your reference is the huge amount of information we in the meantime provide on BW for HANA. So we have really all formats which you can think of, from blogs and documentation, of course, guides, and so on and so forth. So we really provide here a lot of information on BW for HANA, and feel really free to refer to such assets we offer here. Okay, so then of course we offer within TechEd like any year, and I would really enjoy it being on site in person at TechEd like any one of you this year, I guess. But of course we offer much more courses within this virtual TechEd, and yeah, also feel free to watch the sessions from my colleagues in the other areas, really to get the most out of the virtual TechEd this year. Thank you for your participation and your interest, and hope to see you soon, and next year also in person again at TechEd. Thank you very much.
Woo!